The drought is officially over. The Denver Broncos are heading back to the postseason for the first time in 9 years. It didn't matter if it was Patrick Mahomes or the Kansas City Chiefs starters or their backups. The Broncos, they came out on a mission. They're playoff bound. We'll break it all down here on today's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Broncos Country, what's happening? Welcome in to another episode, Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you know it is your team every day. Thank you so much to everyone in Broncos Country, all the everydayers out there who tune in and make us your first listen of the day every single day, for all the objective Broncos news, content, coverage, analysis, and more that you get every single day all year long. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports, joined as always by Sayre Bedinger, site expert, predominantlyorange.com. Soak it in, Broncos Country. The Denver Broncos are heading to the playoffs for the first time since 2015 after a dominant win against the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 18. The mission was set out in front of them by Broncos head coach Sean Payton. Take care of business. That's exactly what we did. And here's what you're going to get on today's episode of the show. We're going to have our game balls at the end of the show here to highlight the Broncos' dominant performance against KC on Sunday. We'll also talk about how Bo Nix capped off one of the more impressive rookie seasons that we've seen from a quarterback in quite some time. He also made a little bit of history. But we're going to open things up with the biggest story of the day. That ticket that the Broncos have been searching for to the playoffs, it has officially been punched. They are heading to the postseason against Buffalo next Sunday. But how did they get there? Sayre, my friend, can't wait to break it down on today's episode show, brought to you by our friends over there at LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. I tell you what, terms and conditions, well, for the Broncos, they just punched the ticket to the postseason for the first time in a long time. And really, since the inception of Locked On Broncos, Sayre, we've never had anything like this. We never had a chance to do a Locked On Broncos playoff push. Here we are. Impressive win by them on Sunday.
38-0. The Denver Broncos came through. I know there was a lot of worry from Broncos Country coming into this game. Like, man, were they going to be able to beat Kansas City's backups? Is Carson Wentz going to be playing for a contract and go out there and have a big game somehow against a defense that had been struggling, to be fair to anybody that was maybe questioning going into this game? But you know what? The Denver Broncos did what they have done against bad teams all season long. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL record-wise, but their backups were playing out there. So what does a good team do against a team that's playing their backups? Well, you go out and get your 9th win by 9 or more points. And this one, I mean, a 38-point shutout by the Denver Broncos. And it was a complete just drubbing of the Kansas City Chiefs from the very start. The Broncos took the opening kickoff, Cody, and they did exactly what you and I talked about in the pregame episode on Friday's show, where we talked about, hey, put the pedal to the metal from the very beginning of this game. Don't give any hope of a Carson Wentz legacy game. We don't need a Carson Steele legacy game. We don't need the Nico Remigio game. We don't need any of that bull crap. We need to go out there and take our playoff spot. And that's exactly what the Denver Broncos did. It was so satisfying. It was a complete victory. We almost had a little, here's a little bit of this for you. Oh, you want one of those? Okay. It was like a full color palette of all the things we would order for a Denver Broncos victory. I absolutely love it. And we're soaking it in, Broncos Country.
Absolutely. And you should. Look, I felt like the energy in the stadium, just walking into the stadium today, it was freezing, by the way, but there was just fans were out there full on tailgating, partying, exciting. And then it was the most full I've seen in the stadium in terms of right at kickoff. Like usually some people fill into their seats shortly after kickoff happens. It was full from the onset. So Broncos Country brought the heat in this game on a day where it was chilly. And for the Denver Broncos, their offense was red hot. I mean, we talk about 479 total yards of offense, all led by Broncos quarterback Bo Nix, really taking command. And Sayre, as you mentioned it, like Denver, they scored a touchdown on their first 3 drives of the game, and really was orchestrated by, hey, some good balance running by Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, Javonte Williams getting involved a little bit, Bo Nix using his legs and his arm. And then you find a way at this point, like Denver goes up and it's like, all right, now you got this comfortable 14-0 lead. It's like, all right, don't get too complacent. You go into halftime with a lead as well. Will Lutz obviously tying, I think the regular season record by Jason Elam for most field goals made in a year. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, hey, Denver's got the momentum in this game. And what do? They come out in the second half. They force the Chiefs to go 3 and out, to punt the football away. And it was just an utter dominating performance here by Denver. And I think one thing that stands out when you look at the total net yards for Kansas City, 98 on the day for Carson Wentz in that offense, 1 of 9 for them on third down. And Denver completely dominated the time of possession, 41-49 to 18 minutes to KC's. This was what I wanted the Broncos to see, sir. You and I talked about this because, look, we all knew it. The narrative's going in. We're watching the Bengals and the Steelers on Saturday night, and we're like, okay, hopefully the Bengals lose. And, they go on, they put a dominating performance on the Steelers. The Steelers collapse a little bit late after they made it interesting. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, you have to win. Like, that was it. It's do or die. Sunday's game was if the Broncos lose, they wouldn't make the playoffs. So you know what? I love the focus that this team had. And I said it all week long. There was this calm focus to them because the one thing you didn't want to have happen, them coming to this week too tight, and then that backfire on them against KC's backups. But we're seeing a lot of conversation. Oh, they played the backups. Sayre, the mission is to win the game. The mission is to get to the postseason by any means. Didn't matter who was in front of the Broncos. They secured the 10th win of the season, and now they're going to the postseason, my friend. And I'm excited because, look, we get to bring Broncos country along with us. This is exciting times here.
It's the best. I mean, I just, it's hard to put into words even a little bit because for so much of my life, Cody, and I know for yours as well, like the Denver Broncos didn't have playoff droughts. There was like, hey, if you miss the playoffs one year, you better be back or somebody's losing jobs. Heads will roll with this organization if you don't win. And it wasn't just a tradition. I mean, this is one of the most winningest franchises in all of professional sports from 1983 till the day Peyton Manning left the organization in 2016, right? So this is not a situation to where Broncos fans are just like, man, this is we don't know what losing is like. We've never known it. And so now to be back in the playoffs where we all belong, it feels right. It's awesome. It's so exciting to get to go up against the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. I don't know, Cody. I'm kind of feeling like the Broncos playing with some house money here because as the 7th seed in the playoffs, you've won 10 games. You've discovered your franchise quarterback. You've vastly improved over the last 2 seasons. You've done all of this with $89 million in dead money, just $53 million alone from Russell Wilson's contract. And you're going to Buffalo playing in the 11 a.m. Mountain Time window on Sunday afternoon. We'll talk more about that as the week goes along. But man, it's so exciting for this team to be back and to be in these discussions, to even be part of the graphics, like on, the here's the playoff schedule, to see the Broncos on there. Like, it just feels so good to be back. It was nostalgic having Jim Nantz calling the game for those that watched on TV and weren't at the stadium. I mean, it was just like when Peyton was still playing. And the last time the Broncos, quite frankly, were relevant. And now here we are again. We're back in business.
Yeah, and look, here's one thing I'll say. Like, Tony Romo was walking by, we were going to go into the locker room post-game here. Tony Romo was walking by. He was talking with Jim Nantz as they were walking out, and he was saying to Jim, you can overhear it, because the eavesdropping there. He said, I think Denver could be a team that shocks some people and surprises Buffalo here, which, look, that'll set the table for the rest of the week here. But very interesting to hear Tony Romo say that here. But Broncos cornerback Rodley Moss had a lot to say. Look, the expectations early on in the year, we've highlighted it. People said Denver's going to not win more than 5 games. They were going to win 1 game. They were going to win less than 5. They won 10 games. Here's what Broncos cornerback Rodley Moss had to say post-game. We caught up with him.
I think you got to spend some time and be proud of what the work you put in. We weren't expecting to do this. It was 5.5, I think was the line, and we hit 10, and we all believed it the entire year. That's why we worked hard, and like Coach said in our breakdown, like a young and hungry team is dangerous, and we're going to continue to ride this momentum.
I heard that Riley Moss was kind of messing with Courtland Sutton, being like, look, I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's only my 2nd year with the team, and here I am in the playoffs. Like, it's only taken me 2 years to get here. I don't know what's wrong with you guys, but love seeing that and the mentality from this team, being underdogs all year, one of the youngest rosters in the NFL, now playing for a chance to go upset the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, we heard from Sean Payton early on in the year where he called this team young and hungry. That was the message that Riley Moss also resonated, and several other players did as well. Here's what Riley had to say on this part.
Kind of from the jump, and that's this type of team we have. Like, we just have a bunch of guys who are gritty and don't really care about the outside noise and just put their head down and work. And that's the most exciting thing for me and for our team is being able to see it come to fruition.
What was this week like?
And it's come to fruition. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here we sit amidst the Broncos now being in the playoffs as a team that was completely counted out. Worst roster in the NFL. Nobody had any expectation. I mean, Bo Nix, I can't believe you would take this quarterback, 12th overall, 6th quarterback in the draft. I mean, Cody, I can't wait to break down more about the implications of this game and the details of which, we saw Bo Nix specifically leading this young team. And I think he's the one really ultimately to kind of tease our next segment here that's given this franchise reason for hope that they can do something in the playoffs.
He's the keys to the kingdom here for the Broncos. He's their franchise quarterback that has been established here. What was it that Bo Nix did in Sunday's game that helped him cap off what is a historic season, not only for the franchise, but also in the same category in NFL history? We'll break that down and much more here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's Locked On Broncos podcast is brought to you by our friends over there at LinkedIn Jobs. And growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets that, and that's why they connect you with the best candidates using data that you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests to the connections that you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high-quality candidates. Hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over there at Rocket Money. And did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. And I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even know that I had that I was still paying for. And Rocket Money, they made it so easy to track them all down and to cancel them. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
Broncos rookie quarterback Bo Nix made some franchise history and joined some elite company in the process of the Broncos shutting out the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season finale. Broncos Country, we're playoff bound this year. Thanks so much for rocking with us here. You know your boys Cody and Sayre got you Locked On Broncos every single day. And for you everydayers out there, we appreciate you so much. And now we can officially say thank you for rocking with us during the preseason, during the regular season, during the offseason, and now hopefully the postseason. You'll join us every day this week as we prep for the Broncos facing off against the Buffalo Bills. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of the show. And we're sure to be talking a lot of Bo Nix on the podcast this week, Cody. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about Bo on today's episode. Our whole segment here devoted to Bo Nix, capping off a fantastic rookie season in which I think if I want to go back at some point, I'll dig through the archives and look at our predictions, maybe some of our pie in the sky hopes and predictions for what Bo Nix could do as a rookie, because he's been better than I think anybody with the highest, loftiest expectations could have possibly imagined.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm very curious too. So when you do that digging, make sure you find a couple of clips. I think we did an episode in the offseason about maybe stats for Bo. Like what could we see from Bo realistically as a rookie? I think he's exceeded every expectation, Sayre. And look, I think it's an amazing thing to see considering how he started the year, right? In the regular season, it's like, welcome to the NFL, Bo Nix. You're going to have 0 touchdowns. You're going to have 4 interceptions. You're going to play the Seahawks week 1 on the road. You're going to play the Steelers then after that. And really the narrative after those 2 games, there were a lot of Broncos fans ready to jump off of the Bo Nix wagon at that point. And it's just like, hey, like, be patient. He's a rookie. Let him grow. Let's see what he does. Thank goodness the organization didn't listen to the noise after 2 weeks and said, hey, we're going to let Bo grow and we're going to do things to maybe help him. And we're going to put some pieces around him. We're going to design some things up. But I think for Bo, as tough as he looked in the first couple of games, for him to flip that switch and look from then to now, Sayre, he looks like an entirely different quarterback, and it's not close. So if you would have told me, okay, in weeks 1 and 2, he's going to be 0 for 4 in terms of touchdowns to interceptions. The Broncos are going to start off 0 and 2. Denver's going to finish the season 10 and 7, and Bo Nix is going to make a little bit of history in terms of where he's at. I would have said you're crazy. But what is that history? Well, Sayre, he had 2 touchdown passes in the first quarter, and that had tied him with Baker Mayfield for the most passing touchdowns by a rookie in NFL history. Justin Herbert obviously held that as with 31 passing touchdowns his rookie year, but then Bo Nix threw 2 more. So he surpassed Baker Mayfield, making NFL history for the second most passing touchdowns by a rookie in NFL history. And Bo finishes just 2 touchdowns shy in the regular season of tying that feat that Justin Herbert set back when he was a rookie. So 2 Oregon quarterbacks at the top of the pecking order here. I mean, that right there, I'm so blown away by what Bo has been able to achieve.
It's been awesome. And those are such great numbers to see him up there in rare air with those guys, because you and I talked before the season. I know we mentioned this, that there's not many quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era that have thrown for more than 20 touchdown passes. That's a very short list of guys. So for Bo to now be second all time among rookie quarterbacks with his 29 touchdown passes, absolutely huge. And the broadcast crew, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, came through with a nice note, Cody, that I've actually, this is off script for us right now. I just remembered it off the top of my head. Bo Nix has more passing touchdowns at home than any rookie quarterback in NFL history. So shout out to the Mile High Magic for Bo Nix, I suppose, this year. More home passing touchdowns than any rookie quarterback ever. And he made some Broncos franchise history as well, completing 89.7% of his passes. That is a single game record for Bo Nix. Not John Elway, not Peyton Manning, not Jake Plummer, not Trevor Siemian, anybody, and nobody. No Jay Cutler, nobody threw for that high of a completion rate. Just incredible stuff from the rookie, Cody. He's playing well beyond what you would expect of a rookie at this point.
Man, I tell you what, too, at one point, Broncos Country, he was 18 of 18 passing at this point, and he could have been 19 of 19 with another touchdown. He missed Javonte Williams right before halftime. I know it was a little no-huddle hurry up, but really, I mean, for him on the day to only miss 3 passes, to go 26 of 29, 321, 4 touchdowns, and once again, Sayre, using his legs, 7 rushing attempts in totality for 47 yards. And man, he had one of the coolest plays of the day that unfortunately got called back. I mean, he turned on the wheels against the Chiefs, saw Javonte Williams, and then pitched it to him. They called an illegal forward pass. I always feel like those are tough, especially when it's sideways. Like if it's going to the angle, I don't know. But it was a penalty, and I think it impacted like 5 yards there. All right, you're going to live with that. Denver ends up settling for a field goal. But just overall efficiency, command of the offensive huddle. I mean, and we talk about overall production. I mean, the third down offense for Denver today was incredible. It was 10 of 14 on the day. That's very efficient. And look, Bo Nix also finding a way to get his guy Courtland Sutton an extra $500,000 incentive, surpassing over 82 yards receiving in this game. Had a 47-yard bomb, and then he had a 32-yard dime down the right sideline. But, man, Bo was dishing and diming. He had a great throw to Devon Vele down the left side in between 2 defenders. Bo can make these NFL throws. And I think if there's anybody now, 18 weeks after the regular season, they're like, oh, yeah, Bo Nix, check down merchant. You don't know ball, brother.
Yeah, that's just well said. I mean, that's straight up. It is what it is at this point. I mean, he's literally had throws that are off the charts for the next gen passing charts, which we know, Cody, are going to be circulating. He had that throw against, I believe it was the Bengals, the throw to Marvin Mims that was literally off the charts. And he's had a number of throws that have defied. I believe the other throw to Marvin Mims late in that game made the top 15 of the next gen stats unlikeliest plays so far this season. So I guess if people want to bag on the guy that's had 34 total touchdowns this year, I mean, just too shy of Justin Herbert all-time rookie record for a quarterback. I mean, it's just astounding what he's been able to do. I'm so grateful that we're getting to talk about Bo in this light, as leading this team to the playoffs, as having such a productive year, finishing the season strong, being the unquestioned franchise quarterback. Like, that's off the discussion board for the entire offseason. There's no better feeling than to know, like, man, we get to talk about this team making the playoffs. We get to talk about this team having a quarterback. And we're not going to get too hurried into the offseason talk because there's still ball to be played. They're not done yet out there. But, man, Bo Nix has a chance now to do something special in the playoffs against a guy that Broncos country has been lamenting not drafting now for 7 straight years. The passing on Josh Allen in 2018 has been the biggest regret of John Elway's career, is what he said. John Elway said that. And so now here we go. The new franchise quarterback gets an opportunity to go up against the one that could have been, or the one that got away. And it's a great storyline.
And Von Miller, former friend Von Miller, who seems to be saving a lot in the tank for maybe the postseason. He had a dominant performance in back-to-back weeks for the Bills. That'll be a big challenge here for the Broncos offense this upcoming week. But 89.7 completion percentage for Bo Nix, a Broncos franchise record in a single game. Ridiculous numbers. And all of a sudden you look at those Drew Brees comparisons, you're like, oh, okay. Efficiency. Like, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. Love the growth that we have seen here from Bo Nix. So we kind of gave you a little bit of a spoiler. Obviously, as we talked about Bo, he's obviously the recipient of a game ball as we handed out here on Locked On Broncos. But Broncos country, we're going to hand out some other game balls, and we're also going to take you inside the Broncos locker room after the victory here on today's episode of the show. Today's Locked On Broncos podcast is brought to you by our friends over there at FanDuel. And as you all know it, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. And can the Denver Broncos cause a big upset? Can they have a game-winning drive against Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills? Well, they're going to be there in the wild card round, and FanDuel is the perfect place to get in on the NFL playoff action, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, so much more, anytime touchdowns, player props, you name it, they've got it. And it's for new customers right now who sign up. Once again, you can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or whether it loses. So head over to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Make sure you check it out. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The fourth quarter action of Locked On Broncos is here. We're going to hand out our game balls and also take you behind the Broncos locker room, hear from some players after Sunday's big 38-0 defeat over the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos punching their ticket to the postseason. Thanks to all the everydayers in Broncos country who have been waiting for this moment to jump on the train, or to experience it with us. This is our first time since doing the show, since the inception of Locked On Broncos. Denver hasn't been to the postseason, right? And that was back in 2016 when the Locked On Podcast Network got started up. I started in 2017. We've never covered a playoff team, but now that changes, and that's going to change. The standard is set now going forward here. So Broncos country, thanks for being a part of it. Sayre, let's get into our game balls here, as we're going to hand them out here today. We already gave one to Bo Nix, understandably so, for his dominant performance against the Kansas City Chiefs, 4 touchdowns on the day. But who else came up big for the Broncos on Sunday? Who are you giving a game ball to?
Let's start with wide receiver Courtland Sutton here, who obviously was going into this game a big storyline given the incentives that were on the line. I mean, $500,000 on the line if he could get to 82 yards receiving. Obviously, we just saw from the graphic 5 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. And look, Cody, I know Court has made some tough catches all throughout the year, but this felt like one of those games to where, man, you could throw it up in his direction. He was going to come down with it. The touchdown that he had in the tight red zone, tough catch. The play that he made deep downfield, tough catch. And he was going after the football. So can we put $500K on the line of somebody else's money, not mine, but let's put another $500K on the line here against the Bills. Somebody put that up for him. Whoever, who just got paid, Pat Surtain, he could spare $500K, I bet. So go ahead and put it on the line for Court. Let's get him some more incentives out there because, man, it was an inspired game from him. It felt like finally, like, you could trust when you throw the ball his direction, like he's going to go up and moss the guy. He's going to make sure he's the one coming down with that ball.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big game, obviously, coming up this week against the Bills. Last time they played, he had some really impressive catches, probably the most improbable catch in the NFL Next Gen Stats era in terms of getting the 2 feet in as the Broncos beat the Bills on Monday Night Football last year. Can the Broncos replicate some of that magic now with Bo Nix at QB? I like that pick. I think Courtland obviously deserves game ball. I'm going to give one to another Broncos receiver. I'm going to go with Marvin Mims here, Sayre, for his performance on Sunday. Really, his role has evolved so much. 5 catches, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns for him on the day. But the way that they're utilizing him, I think, speaks volumes, right? At the beginning of the season, we're all sitting here saying, how come the Broncos can't find a way to use Marvin Mims? And then Sean Payton must have listened to the show, or more so said, hey, you know what? We said in the offseason, we got to find a way to get Marvin the ball. How do we do it? Well, then they started getting creative. They're putting him in the backfield as a running back. They're using him in the slot. They're using him outside. Obviously, he's dynamic as a return option. He's going to the Pro Bowl for the 2nd consecutive year. He's going to be an All-Pro as a returner for the 2nd consecutive year. It's like, wow, this guy's actually pretty special. He's got a skill set to him that hasn't fully been unlocked here, but now you're starting to see bits and pieces. He's truly becoming the Joker here for Sean Payton. So he's going to get a game ball from me here for his 5 catches, 51 yards, 2 games in a row where he's had 2 receiving touchdowns, something to build off of there. But we had a chance to hear from Marvin following the Broncos win inside the locker room, 30-0 against the Chiefs.
I think the biggest thing about this team is that we're young and we're hungry. And, as hungry as we are, we want to go anywhere and go get it. We just battled so much this year, and what sense does it make to stop now? So honestly, I wouldn't be another group of guys I'd rather go into battle with. These guys are battle tested, they're ready to go. First sniff in the playoffs in a while, we got lots to fight for.
Plenty to fight for, and Marvin has been such a key to the Denver Broncos in the second half of this season. I know you and I have kind of labeled that landmark as the trade deadline where the Broncos, I don't know if we really expected them to go make a deal or if it was just wishful thinking based on the fact that, man, somebody's got to get somebody for Bo Nix out there. And then Marvin Mims started to step up right after the trade deadline. I mean, I don't think it was any coincidence that the Broncos made a concerted effort at that particular point in time, and it's unlocked something in Mims. Like early in the season, I think you and I could both tell there was moments that it just felt like he wasn't confident out there, or there was times that he had dropped passes. He was being accused of running the wrong routes by people who were analyzing film, things like that. And so it just felt like his confidence wasn't there. Now it feels like you can really trust him with the ball in his hands. That's exciting for the Denver Broncos going forward. And I think we've talked about this guy a number of times too, Cody, but the old Oklahoma duo is making their return on the game balls section of Locked On Broncos. We got to give one more to Nik Bonitto, right? Obviously finishing the season strong, pair of sacks, get him up to 13.5 sacks this season. I don't know that Nick's going to be in that defensive player of the year conversation at this point. He's probably in the top 3 of voting wise. Maybe what he did in this last game could push him up the board a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be TJ Watt. I know that. Trey Hendrickson, is he the competition? What do you think about Nik Bonitto here? Do you think he made a strong enough case?
I think right now, if you even look at the betting lines, I'm sure it'll shift after this game, but like Pat Surtain's the favorite right now to do it. So it very well may be locked up here for Surtain, but also Nik Bonitto, I think with the 2-sack performance, certainly is still back in it because you look at also what he's doing, like Trey Hendrickson, obviously for him to have the amount of sacks he's had, incredible here for him. Is it good enough to be defensive MVP? I'm not quite sure. I think this might be the year we see Surtain win it, but I think if the favorites and the lines had it at Pat Surtain, TJ Watt, and Nik Bonitto, I now think it's Pat Surtain, Nik Bonitto, TJ Watt based on production in the last handful of weeks. I'd say that's a very valid case. But as you mentioned, 13.5 sacks. I mean, there was one where he just came free wrapped up around Carson Wentz. And it was like, oh, like Carson had nowhere to go in that situation. That he combined with one, obviously, with John Franklin Myers earlier on this game in the third quarter. Also, maybe a little shout out. We don't have it on our stats or also for our game balls, but shout out to Jonathan Cooper. 10.5 sacks on the year for him. He now hits double digits. And the Broncos have 2 starters at edge rusher that have amassed double-digit sacks in the same season for the first time since 2018 when they had Bradley Chubb and Von Miller do it. Vance Joseph has a handful of guys. Obviously, Denver's going to finish with a comfortable lead this year in sacks and obviously sets a franchise record. I think 63 total sacks in a season for Denver. Incredible to see what they have done. But Nik Bonitto, the recipient of our other game ball, he's the other player we got to catch up with in the locker room following the Broncos' victory.
It feels amazing. And obviously, this is something that we've all wanted, but I'm just happy for the guys, especially like Garrett Bowles, Courtland Sutton. The guys have been around here for a while, and finally being able to do it for them. I know they happy as hell, so I mean, it's a good feeling for sure.
Love it. The locker room is buzzing, Cody. It's we've gone from having discussions on the podcast about how you were in the locker room after games in which, I mean, you could just feel you could cut the tension with a knife because it was so heavy in there. And now to see these guys just all smiles, they can't help but smile. They're talking about young and hungry. We're talking about playoffs. I mean, it's just such a different and welcomed different vibe for the entire locker room to be like this. And a special shout out to head coach Sean Payton as well. We didn't make a graphic for him, but man, to turn around the franchise in this way requires great leadership from the top down. And Sean Payton is the culture changer. I know he's a polarizing head coach, Cody, but the guy knows what he's doing out there. The Broncos trading first and second round picks for him is out. I mean, they've traded a lot to get him, and they brought him in and gave him a massive contract with undisclosed numbers that we know makes him probably one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL. And what he's done for this franchise is unmistakably turn it around. And so I think he deserves a game ball as well for getting the Broncos to the playoffs in just year 2 of his coaching era in Denver.
And for Denver to absorb the dead cap hit of Russell Wilson, to manage and to be able to do this with the 3rd youngest roster in the NFL is also very exciting, because now it's like, all right, the Broncos have been able to do this with Bo Nix, with this young roster that they currently have. What can they do when they load up? What can they do when they go out and they spend big in free agency? What do they do when they go out and they load up in the NFL draft? What is this going to do? Like Denver, all of a sudden, Sayre, this win, them going to the playoffs, regardless of what happens in the postseason, Denver now becomes a free agency destination, I think, for a lot of players, especially when you look at the fact that Sean Payton will do whatever he can to get his players incentives. Courtland Sutton, I mean, not necessarily Will Lutz, but they try to get something from Michael Burton. Michael Burton, I don't think, had any incentives on the line, but it's like, hey, let's reward our guys. Let's try to get our guys in. That's the type of organization. And obviously, you're going to see a lot of these players in the locker room that are already there in Denver that have friends, around the league that maybe have already said like, hey, Denver seems interested. Tell me about it. Sell me on it. Guarantee you that's happening there. So we'll see how things pan out here. But Broncos country, enjoy this win, postseason bound. Here's what you can expect on tomorrow's episode of the show. We're going to hear from Sean Payton in his Monday morning press conference. We'll react to that. And also any of the other news coming out of the Broncos win on Sunday against Kansas City. The playoff matchup against Buffalo is set for Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. That's 11 a.m. Mountain Time kickoff on CBS. You can have a whole week of playoff prep headed your way here on the Locked On Broncos podcast, your team every day.